Hi, welcome back to another episode of ColdstreamRodshop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to work on the Camera Ladies Roadster. Haven't worked on it for quite a while, as we said in a video or two ago. There's quite a few things we've got to catch up on to get the body to a state where I can epoxy prime it. So what I need to do is actually get the floor in. What we ultimately want to do is actually weld the firewall to the cowl, put some reinforcing into it. That way the cowl doesn't shake. There's a fella in California, Jerry Kugel. He built a Roadster. He made some modifications to his that basically keeps the cowl from shaking. I'm probably going to adopt some of his ideas. He did weld his firewall to the inside. He put some bracing in there. We're going to attempt the same thing on this. So there's a few other things on the inside before I get that going. For example, not sure if the camera lady can see or not. I've got the brake pedal in there right now. That brake pedal is actually going to come over 1/2 of an inch before I put the steering column in. So I've kind of lined up where I want the steering column to go. I'm going to put a brace across the inside here so that the steering column actually, the steering column support actually bolts to the brace and not to the dash. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to weld the dash in place or not, but we're definitely going to be welding the firewall to the body. So once we have the steering column in, the brake pedal in place, I will take the low car shifter, put the low car shifter in and start working on the floor, which will come right up to the firewall. Not sure how much of that will get done in this specific episode, but that's kind of the scope of what we're going to do next onto it. And then of course, once the pieces come in to work on the headers here, I will be able to basically make a set of stainless steel headers that will more than likely are going to be what we call a tri-Y. So 2 of these will go into one pipe, kind of like the way that the old Mustangs used to do. So 2 into one, and then 2 other pipes into another 2-inch pipe going out the back. That's my idea anyways. So anyway, follow along in this video and see how far I get on those topics. So we're back in the garage working on the 32 Roadsters. I started working on the Camera Ladies firewall. One of the things before, when I welded in this panel here, I had a lot of warpage. I must have welded along the periphery too quickly, didn't let it cool, so I had a lot of buckling. In a previous episode I had showed where I put a rod against it and flattened it out, but what I decided to do was put 3 ply cuts into it, weld them up, and then I just basically dollied it and worked it flat. And now I'm working on this flange. I've got it flat enough. It tucks in behind the engine. There's going to be a skim of body fill on it, so it's I say it's within a 1/16 of flatness kind of thing. So I'm good with the firewall now. I'm going to trial fit it in. The one thing though, when I built the International Roadster, I used my good firewall gasket on that firewall, and I had basically didn't want to take it apart at the time, and this old firewall gasket was on the Camera Ladies firewall, so I've just had to, sorry about that, I just had to pull the firewall out of the International Roadster because everything's stable now, and I'm swapping firewall gaskets out. One thing I'm going to work on also is that when the Brookvilles are put together, there's the inner fender, the inner firewall reinforcing rib is actually in 3 pieces. Originally it's in 1 piece, I think, or maybe it was welded, but I've got to go in here now and weld these up because I think it's a combination of them using a single piece on the inside or welding it, and then in a lot of the originals there's actually some, you can probably see it here, they go in there, and the originals they put some lead into it and fill it up. So what I'm going to do on ours, I'm going to fill that up with weld, grind it flat, and make it smooth. So I'll show you here in a few minutes. Hopefully we'll get this back in place. If I do, I think I'm going to go on and put that cowl vent in the Camera Ladies Roadster next. So I forgot to mention, before I worked on the firewall, I actually broke out the sandblaster and I sandblasted the original upper rain gutter for the International Roadster. That was a piece that looks as though it was put together in 3 pieces. Somebody gas welded it, but it's actually a pretty decent piece. So like we said when we were building the International Roadster, we're doing everything we can to use as many original pieces as possible. So definitely once I dolly that out, straighten it out, I'll get that in the International Roadster. And then before I started all the stuff on the firewall, sorry I forgot to mention that I actually had sandblasted both sides of the firewall as well. So gonna carry on here, just wanted to clarify that. So we're working away on the Roadster here. I have the 2 cowl panels all welded up here, inside and outside and dressed. Kind of happy with that. That's good data. Got that done on both sides. And then what I did was I cut the cowl section here, cowl vent section, out of the piece that I'd shown previously, because the cowl section, when we bought it from a gentleman, it actually went from here all the way to there. So we didn't want to be messing with that. We just want to cut out the section that we needed to use. So what I did, I laid it out. I cut this piece out of the patch cowl panel piece, and then I made my hole about 3/4 of an inch smaller in the cowl here. So I don't know if I can show it up underneath, if we'll show it or not, but you can see it's just sitting inside there. So then what I've done is I've put some Klecos, some 5/32 Klecos here, held it in place. And then next step, I'm going to go around here with the mini grinder with a really thin cutoff wheel and gently cut between here all the way along. And then I'll be able to use these welding panel clips to go in between here, and then I'll be able to weld all the way around. This way I've got it exactly centered, and it's not basically going to move when I was trying to cut it out. So we're going to carry on with this, and we'll get her all welded in place here in a couple of minutes. Here's the next step of welding in the cowl vents. I got rid of the Klecos, and I cut along there and basically welded in between the welding clamps. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer weld all those little welds. Try and stretch them stretch them out a little bit, because all that heat and the gap has made them shrink. So I'm going to hammer all those out, and then I'm going to weld in between. It'll probably take 4 or 5 passes of welding and cooling and welding and cooling, because I don't want to introduce any more shrinking there. I don't have any distortion right now, and if I keep going like this, I shouldn't when I'm done. So should be done here shortly. And there it is. There's the cowl vent all welded in place. I have a small spring on it right now, and I haven't attached this cowl section to it yet. I just wanted to put the flapper in place, or whatever you want to call it, make sure it's good. I've got to order a spring for it. I've got a little throttle spring stuck up inside there. It's not strong enough to really make it work right now, but we'll get a real one. Everything's good. There's really no distortion on the top of the panel, or nothing that a 30 seconds of body fill is going to cover up. So we're all good there. Nice and square, centered, and all that fun stuff. Now off to putting the firewall back in and starting to work on some of the floor section here. We'll get that going here. So next up, like I mentioned, one of the things I wanted to do was weld the firewall into the cowl. I really like the concept of sticking to, get echo here, of sticking to the original way the firewall was put in the body. But from what I've experienced in the 32 pickup and other people who own 32 Fords, the cowl will actually shake a little bit on the highway. And then, like I said, I watched a little clip and some stuff on Instagram from Jerry Kugel out in California when he did his Roadster. He actually welded the inside of the firewall to the cowl. So what I did, I just took a little strip of 5/8 18 gauge, and I just tack weld other side until I went all the way around here. I used some welding clamps on the outside to hold the cowl onto the firewall, and I left a brand new gasket inside. So I had to be careful not to put too much heat here, because I'd start melting the rubber gasket. So right now that cowl from what it was before, it is significantly more rigid than what it was. Now I still plan, I think, to put a reinforcing bar across here to there, just to stiffen it up some more. So got that done. The firewall, when I did it before, was a little bit warped or whatever, so I actually welded or cut up, made a couple of pie cuts here and flattened her out, and for some reason or other I shrunk it or welded too fast, but anyway, nice and flat now. The brake pedal here, I had to go make an arm that went from the brake pedal to the master cylinder. That basically is just a 3/8 grade 8 bolt that I cut down and put a nut on. So I've got a notch in the firewall here, so right now we're clear. I was able to actually bend the brake pedal over another 1/2 of an inch because I wanted that extra clearance to put the steering column in. The other thing I did, I made up these little tabs for the roof. They weren't on it, and it was something I just put off doing. This was the first Roadster we built, so there's a bunch of little things I got to go back over. I realized also that when I first built it, I didn't put lock washers and washers here on the cowl, so it took care of that. So just kind of wrapping up some of the details. The cowl does work. I bolted it down. I just have a throttle spring here. It's not that strong, but it's got a fully functional cowl now. So I'll order up a new spring, put that in. Works great. But that's, oh, one other thing. I don't know if I showed that in a previous video or not, but I made a flange up to go on the firewall that the sheet metal will go up against. I still might have to bend this up. Anyway, I'll talk about that on the next video, about how I made that. Some of you probably can figure it out, but we'll go through it on the next video. So that's kind of it for this week on the 32 Ford Roadster project. Working away on the camera lady's car. I didn't get a chance to work anything on the International Roadster, but there's lots more to come on that. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed. We're back working on 32 Roadsters. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. Send me your comments. I'd love to hear from you. Everybody have a great week and take care.